Hi, everyone. So my project was about, this is a short case study for the project called Talking Trees Project. The title signifies the tradition of the Maasai people. They like holding their meetings under baobab and acacia trees. For those of us who came here early, I think you saw some Maasai communities sitting under trees. That's their traditional ways of holding meetings. They don't do it like we are doing in a house or in a hall. They like doing it under trees. So I took the title Talking Trees because they talk under trees. And it's about FGM. This is a project funded by the Wellcome Trust International Engagement Award for 2016 and 2017. And it's about FGM. How many of you have an idea what FGM is? Awesome. So it's a problem that has severe health implications on maternal healthcare in Kenya, and it's prevalent among the pastoralist communities. When I talk of the pastoralist communities, we have the Maasai, the Somalis, we have the Samburus, the Turkanas, and the Ogeks. People who, most of them are nomads. They move from one place to the other, but they are strictly conservative communities. So I have a few facts about FGM. It includes procedures that intentionally alter or cause injury to the female genital organs for non-medical reasons. The communities who practice FGM have no reason culturally, religiously, medically why they do it. They just say it is their culture and they don't have explanation about it. So the procedures, sometimes they cause severe health problems like bleeding and problems with urinating and later cyst infections, infertility, as well as complications during childbirth. So my focus was on childbirth because we have people who, once you have this FGM performed on you, you stay like that until you're married, and sometimes there's no surgical procedure done to undo the FGM. So most of the women going to give birth have to be defibrillated through childbirth, and it causes severe pain. And a lot of women have lost their lives through FGM. So this is we had a Talking Tree Forum. We've had several of them in Maasai and Kajiado counties. And the Maasai community, it's a community that doesn't allow women, men, and children to sit together. So if you want to talk to women, you have to talk to women alone. If you want to talk to the Morans, that is the youth, you talk to the youth alone. If you want to talk to children, you talk to children alone. There's no particular time that you will bring them together. So it's a procedure done to children between the age of 5 to 15, and sometimes on adults. We have Maasais who have lived abroad, and when they come back and get married in the Maasai community, if you're an adult and you never had the FGM done on you, there's a higher risk that your husband or your mother-in-law can order FGM to be performed on you. So in Africa alone, more than 3 million girls are estimated to be at the risk of FGM annually. More than 125 girls and women alive today have gone through FGM in 29 countries. This practice is prevalent in Africa and Middle East, where the practice is active. And it's also commonly done in Western Africa, in the Muslim regions, Eastern and Northern Africa regions of Africa, and in some countries of Asia and the Middle East. So the purpose of our project was to engage the pastoralist communities through an all-inclusive participatory health forum and dialogue designed to enlighten them and at least to change their attitude towards FGM in order to embrace alternative rites of passage. We also wanted to develop appropriate information materials in the indigenous languages, because for us to penetrate the community, we had to talk their language. And most of the time, the interventions are brought by foreign NGOs, and they try to dictate the cultures that have been practiced for centuries and centuries. So we try to incorporate also their language in developing materials that they can relate to. And we have realized that at the moment, the FGM being performed, we have a lady who has rescued more than 300 girls, and FGM is outlawed in Kenya. It's illegal, so most of the families are doing it underground with an aim of their girls getting free education. So they feel that the lady has rescued 300 girls. If we do FGM on our daughters, they will be rescued, and that means they will get free education. Then also the purpose was to awaken the interest of pastoralist communities and intensify their participation in future community health research and project implementation. We also raised awareness to the dangers of FGM and to advocate for behavioral and attitude change towards the practice. So we carried out some campaigns with the youth in Narok town, where it was well received. The youth, we have conservative youth living in the villages and those living in the towns. So the ones who are going through public education system are more receptive. They are like, they want to end the FGM, but the ones who are in the villages, they still have no idea why the outside agitators, as they call us, are coming to dictate what they should do with their cultures. So we also wanted to develop community health infrastructures, which has been lacking up to now. Through seminars and through workshops like these ones, we tried to talk to the stakeholders, like the Narok County government and the Kajiado County, and we also talked to the public health practitioners with whom we feel we could forge stronger ties of collaboration among researchers, gynecologists, pastoralist communities, and the general public. So we had a campaign whereby we were working together, the University of Nairobi, our foundation, the Enduring Voices Foundation, the governments of Kenya, the county governments, and we got support from the Wellcome Trust, which we are sincerely thankful for. And together we are trying to, not to outdo each other, but to work together to end the menace of FGM. So for us to achieve the success of these results, we realized that our project team had to adapt what we called a do no harm ethical principle, which was to underpin the Talking Trees project that was shielding researchers and the multidisciplinary project team from causing intentional harm to the pastoralist communities. So one of the do no harm approach was we tried to invent, to mitigate the risk of advocating for social change interventions, inadvertently creating societal divisions, particularly in context of conflict, fragility, and unforeseen negative effects, because the pastoralist communities are very, very conservative people. So we didn't want a situation whereby we could cause a rift between them and their governments, because you cannot come from outside to dictate to a people who have successfully kept their culture that all of a sudden they have to stop. So we all adapted the do no harm approach, whereby we avoided situations like reinforcing support for the practice of FGM. We were culturally sensitive to avoid evoking backlash and denial, which could set back the efforts to end FGM. So we also stopped undermining local efforts, because we also have, at the community level, we have Maasai activists who have really done the best. Like the lady who rescued 300 girls, she has done it at her own personal level. So we didn't want to come in and try to undermine the work that she's doing. So we didn't want to fragment the efforts of causing divisions among the actors working to end FGM. We also didn't want to employ the rigid donor-led approaches, which may be out of sync with the local realities. So Wellcome Trust gave us the funding, and they did not dictate how to go into the communities and do what we're supposed to do. We have donors who come in and they dictate the terms of ending FGM. So we are thankful and grateful to Wellcome Trust, because they gave us the autonomy to act with the community towards the ending of FGM. So we also tried not to stigmatize, and by causing emotional distress to those who have undergone FGM, because it's a very sensitive topic. We didn't want to raise or to awaken the nightmares that the FGM survivors have gone through. And we didn't want to replace the severe forms of FGM with the so-called minor forms of FGM. For us, there's no acceptable standard for FGM. It's all illegal. And we didn't also want to increase corruption, because in Kenya, you understand that it is very easy to be corrupted in a project like this. Our politicians like scoring political mileage, so it's very easy for a politician to come in and hijack the whole project and say, okay, what is in it for me, for you to do such a project in my backyard? So we tried to avoid all that. There was no money exchanging hands between the politicians and the project implementers. So the impact of the project is already being felt through the creation of multimedia materials, which we will upload on our website that will go live shortly. And we also have project materials which will contribute to knowledge and increase awareness on maternal health care. And this has given us further collaboration between the academia and the cultural researchers, anthropologists, and of course the community at large. So we have also trained the pastoralist communities in on how to tackle their own community health care, how to collect data, and how to do the dissemination of the data they've collected, thereby contributing to their quest to self-knowledge, determination, and increased awareness in the community. We have also advanced socio-cultural knowledge, discourse patterns, and research data on FGM, and added knowledge to whatever is already existing out there. We also contributed greatly to realization of pastoralist women's human rights, because as far as the Maasai community is concerned, there's nothing as women rights. So the men dictate how the women live, and especially when we are trying to introduce this project, it is the men who are feeling aggravated. It is the women being cut, but the men, when you try to stop FGM, the men feel agitated. Why are you coming to destroy what we stand for? So the men don't understand the consequences of FGM, and when you try to explain to them it has an impact on maternal health care, they say that our women are not complaining. Why should you come from outside and start complaining for our women? And then we will develop the website materials and the project website, which we will share with the Wellcome Trust and every interested party. As I said before, FGM is a very sensitive matter, and it's a taboo, sometimes highly politicized, and perceived religious issues that goes to the heart of indigenous people and can cause gender identity and gender relations problems. So if you are working on FGM and you have insensitive approaches, the implementation could be at risk of driving the practice underground. So at the moment, the government of Kenya has outlawed FGM, but it's being performed at the family level. Initially, it used to be like birthdays, where while it was performed, it was announced in the open, such and such a family is cutting their daughter, so different communities could come together to celebrate the FGM. But now, neither the practitioners or the government or the chiefs know what is going on. But the girls are continuing to be cut, and there's still maternal health issues in the community. So some of the backlash we encountered was not only from the community, but also from the social and religious conservatives who are trying to feel that we are shifting the power dynamics in the community, because the Maasais, as at the moment, initially they used to follow what we call the Maasai cultural age set group system, where you're grouped according to your age. But now they're basically following their politicians. And whatever the politicians and the leaders in the community say, they will follow that. So the leaders were feeling that if we come from outside, we are changing the power dynamics within the communities. So it was appropriate for us to go through the politicians, the community leaders, before we get directly to the people. And it's a little bit complicated, because sometimes you have to do a presentation to the politician before he can agree for you to go to his community to do such a work. So the the project also had challenges. Like when we went to Narok County, we encountered a group of women protesting on the streets. They wanted the FGM laws to be repealed following an arrest of a chief. There was a chief who was presiding over a little girl being cut. So they said that if the chief could be arrested, we want these laws to be repealed. We don't want them. They're not useful to our community. So it happened at a time when we were just going into the community, and we were caught in this protest. So we had to talk to the women to make them understand advocacy for girl child education or advocacy for FGM. So at the end of the day, we kind of reached we reached an agreement to a certain degree. They agreed, okay, some of them saw the interest of education, while others still advocated for the female genital mutilation. So in some situations, we have the women who are carrying out the FGM practice, like the women who get, income, generate income from the practice, because the family themselves don't perform it. You are taken to an older woman, an older relative who has been cutting the women for ages. So for them, they felt like the complete abandonment of FGM led to a loss of income. So we had to teach them how to alternative rights of generating income for them to abandon FGM. And some women who have undergone FGM and men from targeted FGM practicing communities were angered by the constant calls for change from the outside communities. So they felt like we are external agitators asking for change within the communities. And they felt like the constant pursuit of criticism of FGM was like a cultural imperialism, owing to the fact that this is a community that has been marginalized in Kenya since independence. They're the only community that has managed to keep their cultures since the end of colonization. So they feel like if we adapted to the English ways of life, we should leave them and we should let them be to continue their traditional ways of life. Thank you.